The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star.
Presented by Jigsaw Dating, the official dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. I know, right?
Okay.
Trying to get us in trouble.
No, not me.
No.
I'm straight.
To be clear, you don't have to use that because I said the same thing whenever we got this rolling.
Yeah.
But Jigsaw is our sponsor. The name of the game is the Cowboys, and we are mixing it up here on Girls Talk, Boys Talk. It's actually Girl Talk, Boys Talk.
Boys
Talk.
It's girl talk, boys talk.
Boys.
Yeah, boys.
Whatever. We're still working on it. Hailey Sutton with you today alongside Hek'ma Harrison.
That's me.
Got it. I don't know why I wanted to say something else, but I'm glad I got that. Hek'ma Harrison and Patrik Walker.
Hola.
Guys, so excited to chat with you today. A lot of things for us to talk about, and we'll start with the breaking news that just happened on the last show you were on. Trysten Hill is no longer a Cowboy. Patrik, I want to give you the floor here since you were kind of one of the ones to help break that news, the impacts that has for the Cowboys going forward.
Well, the Cowboys, they are already log jammed at the defensive line position, and this was prior to adding Jonathan Hankins via trade with the Las Vegas Raiders last week. And it was something that defensive coordinator Dan Quinn had spoken about time and again as far as having a great problem with trying to figure out the rotation. So you had guys like Trysten Hill and Dante Fowler who deserved more time but couldn't necessarily crack that rotation because of the performance of the guys in front of them. Trysten Hill had one final, go at making his case when Neville Gallimore was ruled inactive just ahead of the Lions game because Neville, turns out, had a wrist issue that popped up. But over the course of the week that followed, Neville got healthy, so now it was Trysten Hill that was made inactive against the Bears. It seems like that was more or less the writing on the wall for Trysten Hill. Terrell Basham, I spoke with Terrell Basham a couple days ago. He said he's good to go, so he might be activated from injured reserve before the Green Bay Packers game. It's a numbers game at this point, so it wasn't anything that Trysten Hill did wrong. Kudos to that young man for his maturity. He third defensive coordinator in his short time with the Cowboys, and he still started to kind of flash and come on strong in limited reps. But at the end of the day, the Cowboys had to make a decision, and that was the decision they made, that it was Gallimore versus Trysten Hill is my understanding, and Gallimore just has more value at 3-tech.
Hek'ma, you happy with that?
I'm just, Patrick, keep it real. Just say everybody had their fingers pointed at the wrong individual. They thought last week it was Neville Gallimore that was on that was behind the 8-ball, and it wasn't him. It was a whole nother guy. So y'all looking through the social media of Neville Gallimore, you should have been checking Trysten Hill the whole time. So, I mean, look, man, Trysten Hill's been skating on ice for a while. And, he no longer had the Marinelli sponsor, so therefore things started to go. Look, he had to perform this season. I think even through the summertime, everyone was questioning whether Trysten Hill was going to make the squad. He pulled out a pretty damn good two-a-days, OTAs. He was on his grind. He did a lot of good things. But right now, I think the tape is starting to show you, man, that we are having some problems against the run. And this interior, guys are just not able to hold up. This defense that we have is basically, we need our guys to be space eaters. We need them to hold up, the center guard, tackle, to be able to allow our linebackers to scrape. Trysten just wasn't doing that. And he's just not built for that, really. I mean, he's a little undersized to be playing that kind of ball up front in the interior. So that's why I thought it was important that they bring in a guy like Hankins that comes in, that's a space eater. You already have Neville Gallimore. You have Bo Hanna. And you got guys up, Chauncey Golston, guys that that really hold up well interiorly. I think Trysten is one of those guys. He's a specialty weapon. He's a guy that you say, hey, pin your ears back, go after it. But, you have to be multifaceted in Dan Quinn's defense. So, look, man, shout out to Trysten Hill, for all the dirt that was thrown on him. I'm sure they were trying to find him a landing spot, get something for him.
Right.
A lot of times, a new scenery for a guy, man, it's going to work out. And it's not as though he was a bum. So he is a guy that definitely is going to find a home somewhere, hopefully not somewhere in the NFC East.
Right, and for those that need to know the bookkeeping part of it, we are now officially after the NFL trade deadline, which means everyone is subject to waivers. Veterans and rookies and everyone in between. Everyone is subject to waivers, so he will be subject to whomever wins that claim order going forward. So, yeah, here we are. And the Cowboys are going with Neville Gallimore as opposed to Tristan Hill. But it's like you said, Hek'ma, it's because they have to shore up the run defense. And when you have such an embarrassment of riches as far as rushing the passer goes, that is something that Tristan Hill does far better than being able to stop the run. But you don't necessarily need that from your 3-tech. You need something, more robust. And that's where Gallimore can kind of give you the duality of that at the 3-tech, and then when you pull Gallimore, now you're talking about a super big body front when you put Quentin Bohanna and Jonathan Hankins shoulder to shoulder in those particular run-stopping sets. So
Tristan Hill played in 6 games last season, and this is a fun fact that I didn't know. The 7 games he played this season with the Cowboys is tied for the most he's ever played in a single season. So it just goes to what you talked about, Hek'ma. We wish Tristan Hill the best of luck as he moves on. And as Patrik mentioned, trade deadline has come and gone. The Cowboys made no moves. The only move they made, of course, came last week with Jonathan Hankins coming in to help the run game. Good or bad thing for the Cowboys to keep quiet today?
There was only one position that
Keep it real.
I'm already
Keep it real. Keep it
real. One thing Hek'ma learned about me is the science is the science.
All right.
So the science is that the wide receiver position most certainly could have been addressed. And I think that the Cowboys try to do so. And I said this on Media Mash, I wonder, because I'm confident and I'm hearing that they upstairs were having talks with the Texans about potentially Brandon Cooks, for example. And what might have been one of the deal breakers there on Brandon Cooks was the fact that he's guaranteed $18 million next year. And the Cowboys have some big names coming up. They're going to have to throw money at Trevon Diggs. Micah Parsons is after him, CeeDee Lamb as well. And you can't, out of one side of your mouth, say we didn't want to pay a guy $20 million at receiver, talking about Amari Cooper, so you ship Amari Cooper away, but then you give up an asset for Brandon Cooks and the right to pay him fully guaranteed $18 million out of the other side of your mouth. You can't do both things. So I think that was one of the main cruxes on the Cooks deal probably falling apart. But I'm also left to wonder if the Texans and the Cowboys got close and maybe they were willing to work something with the deal, because Brandon Cooks probably would have taken less to get up out of there. But when that Claypool deal came out and Claypool got the Steelers a second from the Bears, I wonder if the Texans doubled back and said, hey, Brandon Cooks has been a 1,000-yard receiver at several points in his career. If Claypool can get a second, we want at least a second. And a Cowboys team that drafts well and is enjoying the potential of Sam Williams as a second-round pick. We talk about Trevon Diggs is going to get his money. He's a second-round pick. No.
It makes you wonder about that Amari Cooper trade.
No. So, I would have liked to, if they were going to make a move, for me, it would have had to been wide receiver, but I don't know that I was in on what it would have taken to get a Brandon Cooks, is what I'm saying.
That's interesting.
Please tell us more.
Think about it, because hypothetically, let's say the Texans didn't go all the way to second-round pick. And if I'm the Texans, I would have, because, again, Claypool, I see, even if I had agreed with you verbally and said, you know what, I'll let him go, I'll let Brandon Cooks go for a conditional 5th or a 4th, or a hard 4th, okay? And we'll talk to Brandon and we'll eat some of his salary. Let's say that's going on. And then across the wire, Chase Claypool traded to the Bears in exchange for a second-round pick. If I'm the Texans, I'm like, really? Seriously? I want my second-round pick, or a third, maybe. But again, that's if I'm them in that same conversation. If I'm Steven, Will, and Jerry, I'm like, I'm not giving you a second or third, because even if, in addition to that, even if you're willing to eat some of Brandon Cook's salary, I guarantee you're not going to eat 50% of it.
Can't have both,
right?
Is what you're saying.
Exactly.
So let me say this. For me, just going back to the Bucks game, I think my confidence was shaken through that performance, and that's why I would have bet anything. I would have bet anything that we would have made a move for wide receiver then, because it's just the performance, the lack of production by the run, lack of production for everybody just showed its head in that first game. But then Dak being injured. You take everything, all bets are off. What are we going to do now? Michael Gallup is hurt. We don't know when he's going to come back. He's nursing the ACL, and we're down to Dennis Houston. And shout out to Dennis Houston. I mean, he had a tremendous camp.
Fantastic.
But it just, in game, he was a different guy. I mean, no separation. And then next thing you know, Noah Brown emerges, right? And then Cooper Rush is using him. And all of a sudden, oh, my God, Noah Brown is a weapon. And so you are winning games where everyone had given up on the Dallas Cowboys, and Cooper Rush is winning games with defense and the running game.
Right.
I mean, the lack of production was there, but people just kind of swept that under the rug because winning obviously cures everything. To me, in my estimation, and I was one of those people that was saying, look, trade deadline, we're going to make a move for a wide receiver. But then the Bears game happened. That happened. And I said, oh, Kellen Moore got in his bag. You started to see more formations. You started to see the running game take shape with Tony Pollard. You saw the big play ability, and you saw how offset the defenses were with how balanced we were as an offense. Right. Now, look, that's not – Cowboy Nation don't want to hear that, because they believe, look, you make a move, we need to make a move. That's what we need to do to get over the hump, because we feel like right now we have a championship defense. That's just it. But the truth is, if you look at the tape, you understand now that the balance that the Cowboys have legitimately, if you had that against Philadelphia. Oh, you beat the brakes off of Philadelphia.
Yeah, but then you have Dak in Philadelphia.
Boom. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Because now that opens up everything. And I think, look, that's the short-sightedness sometimes of a fan base that can't, like, look, man, wait a minute. They just went and we need to get – no, we straight.
Oh, yeah, we never – don't ever play that game. Don't ever play that game. So in that same breath, there were some that were asking, the Eagles, they went out and made a trade for Robert Quinn. How do we answer that? You're looking at it wrong. That was the Eagles answering the trade for Jonathan Hankins.
Yes.
Right? The Cowboys landed that first blow. So that's what that was. And to your point, Gallup got his targets. He was one of the main reasons the Cowboys got off to a 14-0 lead against the Chicago Bears. Lamb got in his bag. Noah was out. But to that latter point, Noah being out, I'm not one that's writing off a young man like Jalen Tolbert. It's way too early in his career to be writing that young man off. But it's also fair to say that you expected some production from him as a wide receiver up to this point. You're not getting it. They're not using Turpin in the offense just yet, not as a receiver. You see him on some end arounds. They have a package for him. And I spoke with the assistant coaches today and the offense assistant coaches, and I was asking them specifically about that. I said, hey, I know you have some packages for Turpin. Are you doing some risk management? Robert Prince specifically said, yes, we do have packages for him. But it just kind of goes to whatever play is being called. And I kind of floated this out there, Hailey, a few days ago. I said, and this also touches on Hek'ma's point, because the Cowboys are finding ways to win games before their offense was even firing on all cylinders, there's no need to go too deeply into the offensive bag, because you're just going to end up putting it on film for teams to try to stop later in December and potentially the playoffs. So
do you have that luxury, though? Do you really
if you're winning games, you do.
I mean, but that gamesmanship stuff right now, man, all we want to do is win.
No, here's my point. You adapt on the fly. If you're winning without getting deep into that bag, by all means.
When San Francisco came in here, they wasn't hiding nothing. They had Debo. Yeah. And that was what that was. And so
because nobody could stop Debo.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you saw it on film or not.
So that's what I'm saying right now. What do we have that people can't stop? When we line up,
offensively, you mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's how we put points on the board.
Yeah.
And what do we do?
Micah
Not true, Micah.
No. Hey.
Micah and Tank would have something to say to you.
Micah would disagree.
But what I'm saying is, if you're going to win a game 7-0, I got it. I'm gonna go with that all day. If we can get that turnover, that's not gonna happen every game. But I'm saying offensively, all I'm saying is we saw a wrinkle to this offense that I think we'd been waiting on. We hadn't seen since last year.
I agree.
All right, and so going into the playoffs or whatever we're gonna do through the NFC East in November next month, those things need to start to take shape for this offense to go into the playoffs in some type of rhythm, because we had no offensive rhythm just 5 4 weeks ago.
Right.
We didn't know how we was going to win games. The Rams?
Right.
Like, how the hell we going to get past that? We didn't know.
Defense.
You know what I'm saying?
But here's the thing, and this is what I've been saying for the last couple of weeks now with the trade deadline approaching. It was so hard to really evaluate the offensive weapons that we have, right? We know what CD is capable of. We know the threat that Michael Gallup brings from a deep ball perspective, but none of them were being utilized because we had Cooper Rush at quarterback, right? So
God bless Cooper Rush. Come on now.
I say that every time. It's no disrespect to Cooper. It's just the reality of the situation.
Right
the reality is that Cooper Rush was throwing for 150 yards, if that,
One touchdown a game.
Like, he was very consistent, and so we respect what he's done. But he wasn't the starting quarterback. He wasn't able to utilize the weapons.
Science.
So now, as you approach the trade deadline, and we talked about this last week, it's hard to decide. Like, do we go out and get a wide receiver because we haven't really seen what our wide receivers can do to this point. Then you have the game on Sunday. Dak comes out. You mentioned Michael Gallup setting the tone from the jump, reminding people like, I'm that guy. Right? You have CeeDee Lamb getting involved, scoring the touchdown, making big plays down the field. We didn't see Noah, but I think that that's someone who can be worked in as well. So I kind of agree with you, Patrik. I don't know that you necessarily need to add in, because then what I worry about, and this is what I worried about with the defense as well, that when you're adding too many cooks in the kitchen, the recipes get messed up. You don't want to have a bunch of cooks trying to cook a recipe.
You never had Thanksgiving dinner at my house, then.
Well, you got at my house.
Yeah, you got aunts and grandma, everybody in there. It come out.
Thanksgiving, though, is a special occasion. We're not talking about every single week.
No, right.
You know what I mean? And so I think, personally, while Jerry Jones kind of teased us a little bit all day, he's been teasing us the last couple of days. At first it was, we're not looking, and this morning it was feverish and catching the caboose of the train or whatever the heck he said. So I think I'm okay with it. I think going forward, we've seen what Dak is capable of with this offense, with this defense going forward, and so I think we got to roll with the punches.
And one last point, and I know we got to get the break here shortly. When it comes to the wide receiver core, I want to be clear in that, especially coming off of the Bears game, I didn't feel that the wide receiver position trade-wise was a need. It was more of a want. I think the Cowboys felt the same way. That's why they were still engaged in conversations with Brandon Cook. But if it were a need, then you would have seen an Amari Cooper-ish kind of deal go down today. It didn't, because it was a want, not a need. And also because you look at what Michael Gallup did on Sunday, which set up CeeDee Lamb to do what he was doing on Sunday. But then you talk about the three-headed monster in the tight end room. Mm-hmm. That's wide receiver 3 right there between Schultz, Ferguson, and Hendershot. That's wide receiver 3 as a collective. And they still believe they'll get some kind of contribution from James Washington this year. So all signs point to, as Dak continues to get his chemistry, because he's coming off of injury, but he's starting to look like he's firing on all cylinders now. His confidence is there, as CD about that drop pick, but that ball was there, right? As the timing starts to get back with these receivers, maybe you didn't need to go and trade for a wideout. Wanted to? Absolutely. Why not? Make the team better if that's the situation. But I'm totally fine with them not giving up what they might have need to land Brandon Cooks.
We're pouring out liquor for Tristan Hill tonight.
Yes, we are. And I also like to throw out, as we go into break, that Odell Beckham Jr. Is still an option for anybody wondering.
Facts. Still on the street.
So just something to keep in mind as we take our first break here on Girls Talk, Boys Talk on this Tuesday, presented by Jigsaw Dating, the official dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We'll be right back.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, Pepsi-loving football fans, it's time we had a lesson in trash talk. And I'm not talking about that stuff that happens on the field. What I'm talking about is trash, and it's the only thing that belongs in your garbage can. Now, recycling might not be as thrilling as converting a 4th and long, but next time you're thinking about throwing that Pepsi Zero Sugar bottle away, just cap it back up and pretend you're down by 6 with the recycling bin wide open. Know the difference? Make a difference. Be a team player and recycle. Visit PepsiTrashTalk.com to learn more.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
Back to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, the official dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm glad there was no outburst during that read this time. Got Patrik Walker, Hek'ma Harrison here. We're all wearing our glasses today. Oh, yeah. I'd like to point that out. Jazzy in the booth also pointed out she has her glasses on, so
I can't see without mine, so I don't. I'm not fronting.
There we go. I can't
yeah,
see.
This is a cosmetic.
You talking about
cosmetic?
I got the readers at the bottom of mine. That's what you do.
Cosmetic. I'm 42 with astigmatism.
I also have an
astigmatism.
And can I say really quick, just before we get back to the football talk, I was having this conversation with a friend the other day, and I just feel like people who are like born able to see are like some of the most blessed people on the planet.
I agree. I think
like,
they
how
take it for
unfair
granted.
is it that you take it for granted?
They don't get the starburst effect
see.
at night when they're trying to drive, and okay. Congrats to you and your working eyeballs. It's such a flex.
It is a flex. Speaking of working, Adam Schefter, Tom Pelissero, those guys have been working all day long, tracking some of these trade deadlines as we move ahead to the second half of the season. Really quick, I want both of y'all's opinions on some of the trades that have happened today. In your opinion, and I'll start with Hek'ma since I started with you in the last block, biggest trade that happened today and most impactful.
Hailey, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think the Miami Dolphins are winning the trade deadline. They're a team that already. I look. Tua had questions coming into the season. Tyreek Hill, that trade from Kansas City, but then they double back. They get better at defense. I think Baltimore did a damn good job too by getting Roquan Smith. And a lot of people are going to say that's shade to Lamar Jackson, but I don't think so. I think Roquan Smith actually fits what they do so well. And if they can get stops in that division and in the playoffs, I think he fits. But I'm just going to say Miami. I think Miami was a team that won the trade deadline.
I think that's a good one. Miami, they continue to double and triple down on being all in on not only taking the AFC East, but going deep into the playoffs. But I don't know, that the Roquan trade for me, the Ravens, their defense that has cost them games this season. And a large reason of that, when we talk about the Cowboys run defense and the deficiency there, the Ravens are much worse. The Ravens are 32nd in the league.
Surprising though, right?
Right, 32nd in the league in a number of 10 or more yards allowed per carry on the ground, 31st in the league in yardage per carry. So Roquan Smith is going to drop him into the middle of that, along with Patrick Queen. I think schematically, that for me might take it over the top. But the Dolphins, I mean, they're right there. You're going to get Bradley Chubb, and the fact that they're all in and who they acquired, I could easily go with the Dolphins, but I don't want to say this is my UGA bias, but Roquan in a better situation.
My UGA bias. Here we go.
Roquan in a better situation can't be wrong for anyone involved is all I'm saying.
I like the Miami move. Obviously, I just moved here from Miami, so I spent a little bit of time.
Speak of bias.
There's no bias there. I want to be clear. The only bias I will say that I have is now that Jeff Wilson plays for them. And that bias comes because he's a North Texas guy.
All right.
So that's the only bias.
Fair enough.
And maybe the ESPN reporter that covers them, but we'll talk about that later.
First of all.
No, but seriously, I think that's a good move. I think with Miami in the offseason, adding Mike McDaniel, adding Tyreek Hill to complement with Jalen Waddle, offensively they had it figured out, which is where I think they struggled last year.
Way.
So then defense was just kind of about shoring up some of the things. They have Jalen Phillips in there who can make big plays. and now you're adding some other guys, Bradley Chubb in there, who's really going to help with the pass rushing. So I agree. I think that is a good move.
Did you work for the Dolphins?
I worked for a television station in Miami. So
Okay. I mean, you just talk Dolphin fluently.
Yeah.
Like a second
job.
language over there.
As she intimated, she has an inside track.
Yeah, okay.
But that's a story for another time. Shout out to her.
I didn't know I was even going. I was coming down your street like that. So
shout out to the Capital M down there. We see you,
yeah.
Capital M.
I might have an inside story.
So some backdoor conversation.
Oh, Marcel, I hope you're listening. I love this. So anyways, big moves, big trade. Any surprises that you guys were surprised about?
My biggest surprise is just Chase Claypool.
Yeah.
And the Bears, it doesn't surprise me that the Bears went for a wide receiver because they need receiving targets up in Chicago. Mooney's not getting it done. Equanimeous St. Brown, he's not getting it done. And, to a degree, as far as the tight end position is concerned, Cole Kmet, he's not getting it done either. Justin Fields just doesn't have the target. So you go and you get a guy like Claypool, and again, schematically, makes perfect sense. To give up a second-round pick, though, and I get it, you could say, well, they flipped it because of, the Roquan trade and the Robert Quinn move. Fair enough, but it's still a second-round pick. So I was out on that. That was the most surprising, was the compensation for that move, not the move itself.
No, I mean, look, Claypool, to me, I think once he gets his head wrapped around what just happened, he's going to be in a better situation for the future. In Chicago, because of all the the money that they have, what they're going to be able to afford in the future. I think that's going to be a better. Like right now, Pickett, that whole situation in Pittsburgh does not look good. And Mike Tomlin is one of I love him and I want him to always have success, but I don't know how he coaches his way out of this, and he's coached his butt off for a long time. Brandon Cook's not moving.
Yeah.
To me, I thought that was a situation that the Texans were going, and I thought he had some value. And we're not the only squad that was thinking that they needed a receiver. So, I thought he was going to be able to move. But, look, other than that, man, there were not any big splashes like you had been used to seeing, like, first-round draft picks given up all across the board. There were no Herschel Walker trades.
Yeah.
No
super blockbuster.
Nah, none of that happened.
I was surprised to see Calvin Ridley go on the move only because of the situation that he's been in to Jacksonville.
That's surprising from a risk standpoint.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah. And another one that kind of piqued my interest that we talked about a little bit earlier was T.J. Hawkinson to the Vikings. I thought that was an interesting
Especially being
move.
that that's inside the division.
Yeah. It just
I don't want to think that that's like a shot at him. Maybe it's just Detroit saying we need to move this guy no matter what. Teams don't do that. Teams don't do that. Teams don't do that.
To the Vikings? who's also... I'm
going to give you to my op.
Right, I'm going to give you to my op, who's currently leading the division and already good enough to apparently take the division and make a run. I'm going to give you this weapon.
All right.
Here's another weapon.
I'm trying to play the science. I didn't bring the science. My bad, dog. My bad. I didn't bring the science to it.
I love it.
Man, I'm not going with that either, by the way. You explained it to me, then I was like, no.
Man,
no.
But now you get it.
No, I get it, but no. I don't care nothing about that. Like, no. I'm taking the Cowboys no matter what. What?
Balance.
I don't care about balance.
No, I'm saying us. Balance and counterbalance.
Right on.
Balance and counterbalance.
We need that.
Right? Religion and science. Religion and science. But yeah, I love that you brought up the Calvin Ridley situation because that's a move the Jags made, not for now, for later, obviously, but they did so not even knowing when Calvin Ridley will be allowed back on the field, assuming he's allowed back on the field. But are they going to have him back for week 1, or is it going to be a situation where they tack on another 6 or 7 games like the league did with Randy Gregory, and when he came back, they said, hey, by the way, sit 6 more, right? So the Jags rolled the dice. It could work out in their favor, but it could blow up in the face. But
maybe I just don't understand the whole thing with Ridley. They are really heavy-handed on this situation with him, and based off of the money, and just the way that they're. I don't know. I have my opinion sways on it because he's going to miss this entire season because of that bet. Yeah. And with legalized gambling, never mind.
So now, okay.
I was gonna say that's a story for
science
today.
to the side, and here's some feelings. Without getting too deep in it, I agree because I believe that it's super harsh and just over
in relation to some of the
it's an overreaction, a wild overreaction in today's landscape where gambling is legalized in most states, and you have gambling partners with the NFL. And this young man, he gambles on the game, and I'm not saying he should have been penalized because he should have been, but to see his punishment up against someone like Deshaun Watson, for example.
Please don't get me started.
I won't, but I'll simply say what's going on here. You see, and I'll leave it at that. I just want to know what's going on here. That's
You're correct. The one time that will allow you personally to put feelings.
Feelings
over facts.
There's some feelings. The facts support the feelings in that one because it's like, hey, if it smells fishy, it's probably some trout in the barrel. So.
Never heard that one.
Right. I'm from Georgia, so
all right,
you hear a lot of those.
I'm just.
That's some Georgia stuff for you Texas folks.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. So last question on the trade before we kind of wrap things up with the Cowboys. With some of these moves that were made today, do we think that a Super Bowl contender has emerged, or are we still waiting to see kind of how the second half of the season plays out?
Hell yeah, all feelings, Hailey. Hell yeah. All feelings. Ain't no science behind this. Hell yeah. We going. What you talking about?
All feelings.
What?
All feelings.
What are you talking about? You see what we did last week? We did the Super Bowl.
Okay.
I just honestly, I'm just messing with Pat at this point. It's really one of those things where you look at this defense, and that's the thing that I said. Like, man, if Dan Quinn can work his magic. And we saw it last year with Micah Parsons and the way that he played. It was like, man, this is special. And the start that he got off to, the way that you see your veteran guys like Tank, the way that Tank is playing right now. Guys like Chauncey Golston, Osa Digizua, the linebacking core. There's just certain parts and aspects about this team that I say, look, that's reminiscent of a championship-level squad. What Tony Pollard did last week, I think that's what everybody had been saying that he was capable of, and he went out and he did it. We didn't see any shorts as far as him in pass pro. And so he cleaned that question mark that was, for him up. But I think there's so much about this team that I think is yet to be seen. And I think Dak, and Dak's my favorite subject, by the way. I just feel like Dak is yet to emerge to, healthy after the thumb, after the shoulder, after the ankle, after everything, to show you actually what he can do.
The Cowboys, especially in a wide open NFC, and
wide open.
Wide.
Emphasis on that wide.
Give me the science, Pat. Give me the science.
The Cowboys, and I said this earlier this season, and I've said it every week since. This defense is a Super Bowl caliber defense. And I was saying this when people were still looking at me wide-eyed like, whoa, that's kind of premature. And now here we are 8 games in. Is it still? Are you smelling what the Rock is cooking yet? Yeah. This defense, bottom line, is Super Bowl caliber even before they started to shore up the run defense, which we hope they did at the addition of Jonathan Hankins. So, period. Because the defense, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention special teams as well, between Kevontae Turpin and you got guys like Dorrance Armstrong blocking kicks and special teams, Super Bowl caliber. The only question mark was, when will the offense, not if, not when will the offense get it together? When Dak was injured, we knew it probably wouldn't happen until Dak got back, but then we also knew when Dak came back, there were still some timing issues that needed to be worked on that didn't get ironed out in week 1. So he wasn't going to hit the ground running, but now you're starting to see it. So, to me, Super Bowl caliber defense was already in existence. Special teams being of a Super Bowl caliber started to show itself over the first half of the season. And now as we go into the bye week, the offense is starting to click.
That's my question. And if you don't mind, I got to ask this question. For both of you, all right? Where's the question mark? It all can't be perfect. So where do you say, we got to compensate for this group? What group is that?
Right now, until Jonathan Hankins becomes acclimated and we see them really stopping the run, it remains run defense. At the moment, it remains run defense.
Not the defense, run defense. Not offensive line, not offensive line, any of the – okay.
Run defense specifically. And I believe that Hankins will help solve that problem, but until we see it solved, it's still a question mark, to your point. Tight end unit, you don't have any questions with that because even if Dalton Schultz's knee injury re-aggravates whatever, you've seen that Ferguson and Hendershot, they can contribute, right? Running game, Zeke is rested for the knee sprain. Tony Pollard goes off. We've also seen games where they play in tandem and they're just brutalizing one after the other. Zeke goes in, he gets his yards, he pounds them. Tony Pollard comes in and he slices it for a home run. Receiver core, that was the biggest question, right? But then last week, like you said, Hek'ma, Bears game, Michael Gallup off to a roaring start that set up CeeDee Lamb. And then the tight end group started to complement as well. So where is the question? The only question you could wonder about now is offensive line, but Tyler Smith is playing wonderfully. Tyron Smith is, quote-unquote, 3 to 4 weeks out. Cowboys might now find that their offensive line, which had OL depth questions going into training camp, could the Tyron Smith injury have been a blessing in disguise?
Oh, man, come on now. Hailey, what about you? You got...
Yeah, I just think I agree
offensive line?
with Patrik. I think every single – are you baiting me here? You think it's the offensive line?
No, I'm asking. No, I'm not baiting. I swear to God, I'm not that sophisticated to bait you. No, I'm asking you straight up.
Every question mark that the Cowboys have had this season has been addressed. Off rip, it was the offensive line.
Okay.
Right? What were we going to do without Tyron Smith? Tyler Smith slides in, and he's progressed every week. That's been the narrative surrounding Tyler Smith. The defense, I don't think there ever really was a question mark. The run D obviously could be adjusted, but they bring in Jonathan Hankins to help with that. The wide receivers, I said this at the top of the show, I don't think there was ever anything wrong with the wide receivers. I just think it's hard. Like, you know, are you tossing a baseball with your dad, or are you tossing a baseball with a starting pitcher?
Whoa. Shout out to all stepdads out there.
No, I mean, you don't have. I'm saying you don't have the because I'm a stepdad as well. I'm saying you don't have the immediate chemistry.
Okay.
That's what I mean by that.
Okay.
Me being a stepdad.
I see that. I didn't know where you were going with that. I was like, okay.
For me, and just for me, the offensive line is where the biggest questions. And I think as the winning is cosmetic to all of those things. Yeah. We're running the ball, so you're not as worried about your rookie left tackle as you were against Philadelphia, against Detroit. Right. You saw him, he's going up against the best. And so it's his, and I've called it a baptism by fire. Yep. And as the later you go in the season, he's going to continue to come up against those premier edge rushers. When you get into the playoffs, it's going to get even more premier from that edge rushers.
Here's what I meant by Tyron's injury. Unfortunately, you never want to see it happen, but potentially being a blessing in disguise, because now you know what you have in Tyler Smith. So when Tyron comes back, if you're talking about best five, the best five argument might be Tyron back at left tackle, Tyler popping back into left guard, and now you have your best five. So now your offensive line is going from having a question mark. That's a discussion.
Yeah, man.
It's a discussion that we'll need to have.
But my point is, you now have the luxury of seeing your offensive line possibly become one of the best in the league again, which is something it's not been since 2016. So, and then flipping real quick to the defensive side of the ball, not only did you get Jonathan Hankins, but here's another addition. Damone Clark is on the field now, baby.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. All right, we have to take our third and final break here on Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, the official dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that sixth ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, Pepsi-loving football fans, it's time we had a lesson in trash talk. And I'm not talking about that stuff that happens on the field. What I'm talking about is trash, and it's the only thing that belongs in your garbage can. Now, recycling might not be as thrilling as converting a 4th and long, but next time you're thinking about throwing that Pepsi Zero Sugar bottle away, just cap it back up and pretend you're down by 6 with the recycling bin wide open. Know the difference? Make a difference. Be a team player and recycle. Visit PepsiTrashTalk.com to learn more.
With Smoothie King's original Angel Food and new Angel Food Slim without added sugar, you no longer have to choose between treating yourself and hitting your goals this summer. You don't have to choose between great taste and feeling great. Because at Smoothie King, every blend is made with whole fruits and no syrups, so you can satisfy your cravings without compromise. The only choice you will need to make is which one is best for you. Try our classic Angel Food or the new Angel Food Slim, blended without added sugar. Smoothie King. Rule the day.
Final block here on Girls Talk Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, the official dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And get the ultimate fan experience for the ultimate Cowboys fan. Join Dallas Cowboys United, presented by Globe Life, starting at just $20. Join now and get your fan pack, exclusive benefits, and more. You can visit DallasCowboys.com/United for details and to join today. Gentlemen, final block here. We were talking a little bit in the break about what to wrap up with here. Patrik, you mentioned Damone Clark as we were coming out, so I want to circle back there. He obviously came in on Sunday with the expectation of playing on special teams, got a little bit more than just special teams. I know that the feedback has been he was fine,
yes,
basically. But just the impact that he brings on the field, and adds another layer to the defense.
It is. We're talking about a defense that we had already tabbed as being a Super Bowl caliber unit. And, of course, then you go and add Jonathan Hankins. But Damone Clark, this is a guy that a lot of pre-draft graders had him as a first-round talent. And the Cowboys, I believe, absolutely stole him in the fifth round, Cowboys being the team that discovered the neck issue that led to the spinal fusion surgery in March, and then fortuitously end up landing him in April. But like you said, the plan was for Clark to go in special teams. Anthony Barr goes down with a hamstring injury, doesn't return. And here's a kid, a young man, I should say, who hadn't played a snap of football since, December at LSU. He gets thrown right into the fire, 40 snaps on defense, 17 snaps on special teams, had a couple of hiccups here and there, but was not the culprit of any big play. Almost had his first career sack, and I think he should have, but they credited that to DeMarcus Lawrence, but it was actually Damone who got his hands on Justin Fields first, and clocked over 22 miles per hour on a play chasing Justin Fields down on the sideline, which is the fastest a linebacker has ever been clocked in the next-gen stats era. Damone Clark is going to be a monster for this defense, and the Cowboys couldn't be more excited to see him on the field. But it creates a logjam, I don't say but, and it creates a deepened logjam because Barr isn't anticipated to have a long-term injury situation, and Jabril Cox was already struggling to crack that rotation. Now here's Damone. Damone is a better run stopper than Jabril, and guess what we were talking about? The Cowboys need to shore up the run defense. So I think Dan Quinn and George Edwards, they'll figure out how to get Damone on the field, even if and when Barr is back healthy and back on the field. Just a huge addition for the Cowboys defense, as if they needed another. Dan Quinn, he's Scrooge McDuck swimming in the money bin right now.
So many weapons.
No, I just, the thing is, it really confuses me on what we're going to do with Jabril Cox. He was a guy that there was a lot of promise coming in. They knew that he would be challenged in the run, and his pass coverage was what they really graded him so much higher on. Damone Clark, how fortunate of us to find out he has a neck problem when we drafted him. Oh, yeah, by the way, he runs 22 miles per hour. Oh, wow, look at that.
Out there beating Micah in sprints.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, all those things considered, I think the linebacking position, even on the defense, that's where so much more is desired, because Tristan Hill is out of here because of his inability to get guys off of the linebacking core. But you go back and look at the tape, and you're saying to yourself, man, like, come on, you can't get washed like that. Anthony Barr, you can't get washed like that. And even Damone Clark, as good as he was, there was times where he underplayed, overplayed, but that's rust. Right. That's a guy getting back in the groove of things.
No training camp, no preseason.
And he legit got held, and they didn't. Anyway,
that's another story.
Hey,
we won't get that too far.
All things being considered, I feel as though the younger we can get at linebacker, this defense, if he can be everything that we think, the only argument I have is about him wearing 33.
I like it.
Do you?
I do. I'm a huge Dorsett guy, and I don't see a problem with it. I know some do, but
I love
it looks
his story.
It looks
his story is awesome. His story is awesome. His resilience and ability to battle back from spinal neck fusion.
Yeah.
You play a position where you're going to be using that part of your body all the time, bro. That's just the nature of the business that you're in. But look, Tony Dorsett, man, he's a legend. And there's just certain numbers for the Dallas Cowboys that I feel like no one should wear.
9.
33 for sure is one that I have some reservation. But you know what? One thing I can tell from his first out, he gonna represent that 3-3 well.
And that's why I have no problem with it. And I love when I was talking to Damone after the game, and I asked him how long did it take for him to get the jitters off, and he said after he made his first tackle, he popped up and he was like, "Oh, it's still football. I still know how to do this." And I asked, was he thinking about the neck issue? And he was like, "No, I can't do that." He was like, because once you start thinking about it, you go out there and
he's a big old dude too.
Oh, he's a specimen.
Yeah, he's a big old dude, and that's exactly
to be able to move that fast. But that size.
That's what I think Dan Quinn does, and guys have a type. He definitely has a type. He likes a big,
and we like Dan Quinn's types.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And he has.
Is that a jigsaw plug in there?
Listen, Dan Quinn knows how to swipe.
I'm not gonna plug nothing. Jigsaw.
When it comes to talent and scouting, listen.
Hey, I gotta go home.
When it comes to talent, Dan Quinn knows the right times to swipe right.
Yeah,
I don't even think
what that means.
I don't think on Jigsaw you swipe.
I heard it means that you like what you're looking at. I can't confirm,
what?
But I'm just saying. I heard it's a
What's
thing.
that?
This has been so much fun, gentlemen, talking boys talk. I think that's a perfect place for us to wrap up. Girls Talk Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the official dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. For Hek'ma, for Patrik Walker, I'm Hailey Sutton. We will talk to you tomorrow.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?